In a world that settles, God asks for loyalty. Mother Teresa, one of my favorite saints, who built this empire of charity, famously said, God doesn't ask us for success, rather, He asks us for faithfulness. Sometimes we treat being Christian like checking off a list of things. And there seems to be an interminable succession of things we have to do to be Christian. We come to Mass every Sunday, which is something essential to being Catholic, but we can still miss the heart of our relationship with Christ if that's not truly like something that's impactful and present in our lives. What does it mean to develop a relationship with Christ if we're not praying? We're praying, and so we wonder how authentic our love for God is if we're not engaged in service to our neighbor. So we begin to volunteer, but perhaps we begin to feel overwhelmed. There's just too much going on. When is it ever enough? We are looking at our Christian life through the wrong lens if we just see it as a series of actions. In a world full of compromise, God asks for complete loyalty. When faith becomes just a checklist, we risk forgetting that loyalty to God often costs something. Are we willing to suffer for Christ? It can feel like the time of standing up for our faith and suffering persecution is long gone. But we can look at today's gospel and we can apply it to very real situations in our own world. For example, in Nigeria, Christians are being persecuted in a terrible way. Rifkatu, a young woman, recently married, and when she got married, she had no idea what would happen in even just the next month, because they were afraid of suffering violence. They had actually moved away from the fields that they would normally be able to plant and take care of and harvest. But after about a month of this, we have to go back. So she and her husband, they moved back closer to those fields, and very soon she's kidnapped, taken away, abused horribly, and eventually returned to her family. One of the things that she said was, they did this to us because we are Christians. So for her, living out the faith meant suffering persecution. What would we do in that case? How would we stand up for our faith? We can think of this woman, Rifkatu, as we delve into today's gospel. Jesus isn't making a sales pitch. Jesus isn't trying to convince you to follow him, but he is brutally honest about what that means. They will seize and persecute you. Definitely not the way you would start off a sales pitch. We see in the story of so many Christians suffering in Nigeria that persecution is not something limited to the past. Are there ways in our lives that we suffer persecution? We should not be surprised that we suffer for our faith, since this is precisely what Jesus promised to us. When we do have to suffer, it should lead to us giving testimony. Christ says it will lead to your giving testimony. The reaction of Rifkatu and her pastor husband impresses us. Rather than calling out for revenge, they try to live out their vocation as well as they can. We can focus too much on a shallow understanding of justice. In fact, often, instead of justice, what we're really looking for is retribution, getting back at somebody. We should learn to give testimony through our lives and to be clear on why we hold on to the Christian faith, even during difficult times. We do not have to rely entirely on ourselves, since we are able to rely on Jesus and in his infinite wisdom and goodness. He says further in the gospel, I myself shall give you wisdom. Trust in God's grace and pray for continuing perseverance. We have to trust more in God's wisdom than in our own second guessing and worrying. It's so easy to fall into overthinking, to convince ourselves that the future is going to be horrible. We're in a difficult situation now, and so we project that out into the future, and we think life is never going to get better. Well, what does that cause in us? That causes despair, and that's not what Christ wants for us. The good thing about appreciating suffering is that we come to understand how much we can sustain before it breaks us. Think of the last time that you worked out too hard at the gym. The next day you were wrecked, yet somehow you recovered. By doing so, you prove to yourself that you're actually capable of giving more than what you thought before that. Just like our muscles grow when we stretch them beyond comfort, our faith is strengthened when we choose to trust God even in the midst of discomfort. Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is essential for success in life and to be loyal to God. Commit to being totally loyal to God. Take some time this week to identify one area in your life where you're trusting more on human thinking, human plans, than on God's providence. Don't cling to comfort, cling to Christ. The cross may be heavy, but heaven is home.